Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Hey, welcome back, guys. I am Houston Blackwood. This is another production of Innovation Unplugged, a production of the ACCS Innovation Center. I serve as the Workforce Director. Today in studio, I have with me our Director of Marketing and Corporate Partnerships, Kailah Dozier.
Hi.
Yeah, there's Kailah. And on Zoom today, because he is a man among many missions, is Dr. Massey, President of the Alabama School for Cyber Technology and Engineering in Huntsville, Alabama.
Hey, Kailah in Houston. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we are excited. So I'll be real honest with our listening audience, with you, Matt. I didn't tell you this when I saw you in person. When I was a teacher and a principal and a coach, I followed you and watched your career. Because when you got elected to be the Madison County Superintendent, we're going to talk about all that in a minute. I was like, okay, that guy's really young. How did he do that? And because I wanted to follow. Those were my dreams at the time too. So I've been knowing who you are for a long time and watching your success and watching your mission and getting tidbits where I can. And so then fate had it. We ran into each other in Mobile a while back. And so here we are. And I think your story is incredible. And what you're going to tell us about your school is incredible. I can't wait to see it. So welcome, man. Kailah, any opening thoughts before we roll?
No, other than I'm excited to learn. Houston did his research and kind of filled me in a little bit about what you guys do and who you are, but our listeners want to know about you, and he'll give us all the prompts and things like that, but I'm excited about the conversation.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so just you've done things you've done things that have not ever been done before. Yeah, that's pretty obvious. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is just really, the chart or the path that you've charted. So we always like to give a quick rundown of who you are, where you came from, and really how you got to this moment. And we're looking at high points, but what brought you to this moment in your career?
Well, I appreciate that, Houston, that question, because that core is, I guess, kind of what got me here. I grew up in a small town in South Alabama in Citronelle. Both my parents taught at the school. My mom coached all the girls' sports. My dad was a head football coach and athletic director. And, my after-school daycare was going to the high school and being the manager for all the teams, whether it was one my parents coached or not. So I kind of grew up a believer in what, that public education is the key to upward mobility. It's the key to eliminating generational poverty. And in a state like Alabama, that, investing in public education and believing in it is kind of what I think has propelled us to where we are now, and what continues to push us forward. So it's I went to Troy and got a bachelor's in education with math and a little bit of computer science in there that I drudged my way through. I went, my summer jobs was laying sod or working in a wood shop. And so I stayed at Troy through summers to not go home and work those jobs. And so I finished in 3 years and a quarter. So wow. I was 21 years old in my first teaching job at Clark County High School in Grove Hill. And then went to grad school at Ole Miss, thought I want to teach at, the collegiate level, and had a fellowship there, and spent a couple of years getting a master's in mathematics. And then kind of the passion though still was, hey, I think, this secondary education is kind of my wheelhouse. In the meantime, my parents moved up to Huntsville. My dad was head football coach at Grissom at the time. And I'll just come over here to Huntsville for a year. Then I was going to go overseas or to Alaska or somewhere exotic or cold or mountains and live the dream. Ended up marrying the English teacher across the hallway at Buckhorn. And I was content teaching math and coaching. Ended up kind of on a whim, kind of got talked into getting an administrative certification or going into that pathway with Sanford. And after doing some of the placements there, I'm like, I don't know if I just kind of want the assistant principal role in secondary, I think, is the hardest job in education. and I enjoyed teaching so much. I was a national board certified teacher, and that kind of thing. And I was got an opportunity to be a lead teacher, so I was getting to do consulting and stuff with that across the nation. But and the school system at that time, as we were learning, going through that master's program, learning about the system, the school district in Madison County was in kind of a tough transition. They had a couple superintendent changes. It was kind of a lack of leadership, and so you have board members, county commissioners, local politicians trying to fill that leadership gap. And yeah, I was essentially a classroom teacher, and somebody out of our group was like, "Hey, somebody's got to step up and kind of have this opportunity." Madison County is one of the districts where they elect superintendents.
Yeah.
And but you got to have an administrative degree. You got to be in the school teaching for 5 years. A letter from the state superintendent saying you're fit to serve. To qualify to run for superintendent is actually more rigorous than to qualify to run for president of the United States. But I ran for that at 38 years old, and won that position, and got to serve for almost 5 years. I ran unopposed the second term. But with that, it was I got in that position not really wanting that to be a career path. I never wanted to be a superintendent. It was just there was an opportunity to serve, and somebody kind of needed to step up. I mean, I felt like if it didn't work out, the average superintendent in Alabama and nationally only lasts 2.5 years before they get fired or something. And but I knew I could, I enjoyed teaching math and coaching, and I could go and do that. So if it only lasted for a few years, that's fine. But when you I think being in the classroom for 15 years before being a school leader kind of puts you in touch with what that's like. Unfortunately, the path to be a superintendent takes so long in most cases. Every year is a year you're out of the classroom.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was doing that, and then this school started up as a brand new school, a state independent school. And it was like, hey, man, this is an opportunity. You're separate from the State Department of Education. You don't, the bureaucracy that kind of gets in the way of some things you want to try to do was kind of not here. And so I was employee number 1 at the Alabama School of Cyber Technology and Engineering. So kind of that pathway has kind of led us to today.
Yeah, you charted a new path. Much like us, we started the Innovation Center some years ago, and this is our 5th year, and it did not exist. And so we had to find a way to make it happen. Kailah and I were one of the 4 originals. So I get it. And you're taking those risks and just trying something new. And I think that's the spirit that I saw, 2 spirits I saw, I guess two parts of your culture there at the school that day I came by. The first one is that everybody's taking a risk and stretching a little bit. And the second one, and we'll talk more about, is how you care for the whole child, the whole student. I could speak for days on that, but it's really cool, man. Give us a rundown of what the ASCTE is. A lot of folks, if they're not in K-12 and don't have kids in that age, they might not understand exactly how unique that campus and that whole setup is.
Yeah, so we're a high school. It's grades 9 through 12, but that's about the only normal thing about it. We specialize and focus in cyber and engineering. And what that means is we also take those core areas and we implement them and embed them into all of our math and science and social studies and language classes. So in our language arts, our teacher was showing, I walked in there a few minutes ago, and they're doing Gatsby, but a kid has basically taking what Gatsby had kind of done is sort of written sort of an AI type program that has dialogue based on your actions, how Gatsby would react. So they're doing cyber while they're learning about the Great Gatsby. And that's just me popping in the classroom. The kid was kind of showing the teacher that. And she's like, check out this code. So we take those things and make them relevant to where the students are with that. But we're an application-based school, so kids apply. We have entry points at grades 9 or grades 10. If you start in grade 9, you take 3 years of classes, and then your senior year, you do an internship on Monday through Thursday. You go to work with one of our partners, and on Fridays, you work on your capstone. All the students, their senior, have to build something. They work as a team to do that, and they show it off at the end of the year. And so kind of creates a pretty cool culmination. I feel like, and this is kind of that superintendent experience. You had the high academic, let's take AP and dual enrollment. And then you had hey, there's a career center. You can learn how to weld and pipe fit and that kind of thing. And I always believed there was a way to merge that together.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the ones working with their hands, they can go to college and get a 2-year degree certifications. Those that are going to to get a degree in engineering or going to Auburn or wherever, they still need to be working with their hands and welding and cutting and building. So, our students, I would say, have that well-rounded education of both of those things.
They sure do. When I was there, so Matt, I officially met Matt Massey at the Leadership Alabama event down in Mobile at Bishop State. And Chris Strickland and I gave a presentation. And then he came up, we started talking. And so I came to see him a couple weeks later. And I get there and I get greeted by this young man and a security guard. They were both very nice, by the way. Very professional, both of them, thank goodness. But they were great. Took me in, and the young man said he was going to take me to the weight room. And I thought he meant waiting room. Like this guy's got an outer office. I'm going to be sitting there on this stuffy couch. No, it was a sure enough weight room, Kailah. Like
lifting weights.
Like legit, like let's get after it, pump some iron, weight room. And people were actually in there getting after it at 7:30 in the morning. So anyway, we toured this campus, and two things I saw there. You mentioned this whole child of the academics embedded. They have a wood shop that rivals anything in the state probably. Like it's phenomenal. And in that same space, there are all kinds of metalwork. They had that, and then they had what's the other thing that was so unique? It was all the metal fabrication. There were minor little welding and mills and lathes and all this stuff. So these engineering students really are seeing all that. But what was cool was that we were making our way around, and then it was a Tuesday morning at about 8:30, maybe 8:45, and that's when all the students were leaving to go to work. And it was the coolest thing because they lived there. And so now they're all like walking away from home, going to work, and he said it that way. It's like they're going to work, going to the internships. And I was just thinking, wow, how cool it is that they get all that experience right there. 16, 17, 18 years old. Incredible. Tell us a little bit about the structure of the different floors and just the different things you do to take care of the whole child. Because we try to do a lot of wraparound services for adults, and we don't do as much for the K-12 that we serve because the high schools are doing that. But you guys do it so different. Give us a rundown of that.
We kind of come in we begin with the end in mind. And that end in mind is they need to be able to be successful going into the workplace, knowing how to shake an adult's hand, look them in the eye, introduce themselves, have a conversation, ask about them, that kind of thing. So we start that off their freshman year. We have basically a class dedicated, we call it Field Experience 1, where they get guest speakers come in, but it's so much, how do you engage with an adult? How do you engage with the peer? And it's a very, kind of professional setting, but they're learning it. And they take that class each year through that. In year 2, they're going and doing field trips every day, visiting different sites. In year 3, they get an adult mentor, and we kind of help that mentor how to guide that conversation with that. And then they do that internship. With that, those first 2 years, they're taking a mandatory ethics class, like just because you can do something. They're learning some kind of wild stuff in our school here of the cybersecurity. To secure something, you got to know how somebody's going to attack it. So they kind of know those offensive things too. So just because you can do something, we don't want to create a bunch of supervillains here. So we have ethics. And
that's funny.
And our counselors teach that ethics, and they engage in like, how do you handle certain situations and that type of thing. But also we have we have 3 counselors that for 365 kids this year. I would say it's the highest counselor to student ratio, or the lowest, I guess you would say, of anywhere. But, those kids need a lot of support. The counselors are teaching the ethics class, so our kids know all the counselors. So if they ever have problems or need it, they go there. We got 100 plus teenagers living with us in a dorm. I've got 2 teenagers in my house, but it's, so this much it is, you want all those wraparound supports you need, whether it's nursing and all those things. It's expensive, but it's a way to, we're located in Cummings Research Park. There's all kind of opportunities for Alabama students to come and get an elite experience like no other really in the nation.
That's amazing. I didn't know all of those details. And I think that, how long have you been principal there? You may have already mentioned this. Or
Yeah,
president
so
there.
we're kind of set up like a university model.
Okay.
So like the title is the president. So
Yes.
yeah, and that's so
My
yeah, and
apologies.
then we have deans and directors, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's kind of part of kind of that organization there. And
Hmm.
all of our kids, they have to, when they come in, they know they've got to embed in the culture of the school too. So they have to be in a club, they have to join a
Okay.
sport. All adults in the building have to coach a sport or a club. You
Awesome.
have to engage in these students' lives, and students have to engage outside of that classroom setting as well, which kind of leads to a pretty rich culture. It leads to healthy
Hmm.
students who learn, who are successful when they go in that workplace.
That's amazing. I think so. In my world, in marketing and with the Innovation Center, we're always looking for those success stories and someone's testimonial of their experience. And so I'm sure you have plenty of fabulous alumni. And so give us some of your highlight stories over the past years of who you're proud of. Maybe you don't have to give us their names or anything, but
Yeah.
we're all about some success stories.
Well, we only have two graduating classes. The first
Okay.
graduating class was 16 students. It was kind of a pilot group that
Mm-hmm.
of sophomores brought in. We opened our first year in the pandemic when everybody else was closed. We were having in-person
Wow.
school. Our second group was 65 students. So out of that, what's that? 90 kids.
Hmm.
Most have stayed in state. Probably 90% have stayed in state. A couple went ahead and started a career. They turned down college scholarships to
Okay.
go straight to work. But we've also got kids in elite schools. We have students at Georgetown, at Harvard, at Tufts. But it's also cool to see kids turn down the University of Texas and Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt to stay in state as
Wow.
well.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a number of kids at in the community college system, and that's a great fit for that too. So it's kind of become very quickly a recruiting ground
Mm.
for universities in the state, but also not just regional. Mississippi State is getting after our students. They got 6 of our seniors last year. Their president brought in their whole team, flew them over to spend a day in the school. But
Nice.
the elite Northeastern schools see they can come here and essentially recruit the whole
Hmm.
state. So we got another kid going to Columbia next year, but it's we want them to come back here after they graduate from there, and they know because of our program they can have a career here in Alabama, in different parts of the state of that. So that's what's cool about I would say our school is almost like a public-private venture
Mm-hmm.
partnership. We got over 70 for-profit partners that have donated about $20 million to the school because it's, we had to raise that to build the building. The state funds the operation of the school with that. But so that's what's kind of made it a cool thing. So one student in particular, she's from rural Alabama, and her dad is not in the picture at all, like in Texas somewhere. The mom was in jail, and the grandfather basically had custody of her and applied with her, brought her up, got her moved in, and then told us he was dying. So he died about a year later, and she kind of became
Yeah.
ours
Wow.
with
Oh
that. So
wow.
she was an unaccompanied minor. We basically kind of raised her sort of on that, and make sure she was
Yeah.
kind of taken care of in the summer. And she ended up, cyber was kind of her thing. She kind of figured it out. She ended up getting hired by the National Security Agency, the NSA.
Oh wow.
Flew her up, and she passed a polygraph test and all that kind of stuff. And so she was going to college in California. She ended up getting UAH offered her a scholarship, and the person she interned with offered to pay her to work with them while she's there. So that kept her here in Alabama. She tutors for us in the evenings, so she gets kind of even pass that on.
Yeah.
But yeah, she told me she's going to go back up and work for the NSA again this summer. So the other day when I saw her, so we go and it's not, we partner with the Boys and Girls Clubs. We want to reach those underserved kids. We get the high flyers, but they're fine. They're going to be fine career wise and all that. But for me, it's important to reach out to those underserved communities, kind of where I grew up and where I taught in Grove Hill. It was cool that I wanted to get a kid from Clark County. And so we've got a student here that's a sophomore now that we got from Jackson, Alabama. We want to reach out to those areas. My mom grew up in Choctaw County. My dad grew up in Washington County. So, we wanted to make sure we have students from all over that represent this awesome state.
Do you go and recruit, or is it just open application?
Yeah, so it's open application. When we recruit South Alabama. People up here kind of know about us already, so we don't recruit the local area. So we really focus our recruiting really Birmingham South, and people just don't know about us. So
Sure.
honestly, this is kind of recruiting right now.
Well, it is.
Of getting
Yeah, and for the listeners that didn't catch in the beginning, this school is located about 200 yards northeast of Calhoun Community College in Huntsville, and probably, I don't know, some less than a couple miles from UAH. But you're not tied to them. Like they just in proximity. You're doing your own thing. So that's really cool. And I saw kids, and I don't know where they're from, but they were also like they put together. Like they were walking around that day having breakfast. You called it morning meat, and they were all in there paying attention, ready, doing their thing. Like teenagers will do. But they were all ready and listening. And so whatever it is that your criteria are that you hold, man, it was really impressive to see that consistently across that student body, and just interacting the ones we did. We took a tour of the whole campus, 3 floors, a beautiful building. But I noticed that every classroom had glass windows, so there's not like a wall, like a little door like we grew up with, and, in all the high schools back in the 90s. Why do you have the glass walls? And in the open offices too, like there were so many spaces that were student workspaces, but they were open. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we wanted to create a collaborative environment. And, when I was superintendent, we had 28 schools, and they were all a little bit different. And the schools that were multi-level, you'd have a completely different culture on floor 1 than floor 2. Because of our site, our school is vertical, it's 3 floors up. Yeah. But it was when we were designing this out, and we had to value engineer and cut stuff out. What I didn't want to cut out was making it collaborative. So it is an open air, all 3 floors. So you literally can see the lines of sight. You can be on floor 3 and see in a classroom on floor 1.
Yep.
And you can see teachers across from you as well. So we wanted to make it collaborative, but we also wanted to make our school be a place where other educators could come and learn and feel like they're a part of the classroom without having to necessarily barge in. When I was superintendent, when I would visit a school, I would go in classrooms and I would, just kind of like tell teachers in the beginning, if I come in, just keep going, don't stop. I don't want to join in.
Yeah.
And so it is a way to kind of do that, where visitors necessarily don't want to jump in a classroom somewhere else, but it is to just see how our teachers facilitate a classroom, how our furniture is kind of set up to be collaborative. Our kids don't sit in rows and work. Everything is working in a team to solve a problem. Yeah. So we wanted to be able to showcase that. So we feel like our school is kind of like a learning lab, and to be a center of that. And in fact, the legislation that created the school said, hey, create a school, but also help replicate cyber and engineering studies throughout the state. And to do that, we bring teachers in here and administrators into the school, and so they can kind of see how it works. But also we have an outreach program. We run camps, cyber camps all throughout the state. Last week we were in Livingston, Alabama, at the University Charter School. We're going to be going to OP here in a couple of weeks. We're in Elmore County. We're kind of all over. So we also export what we have as well.
Have you ever, you said University Charter School in Livingston, have you ever worked with a group called Sumter County Skilled Trades?
I have not.
Okay. I'm going to connect you offline. They're out of York, Alabama, which is not far from Livingston. You might be really interested in that community, investing what you do. I'll tell you all about it later. That's really cool. That learning lab is a big deal. We walked around, and I don't remember seeing a classroom where everybody was looking at the teacher, like in rows. Now that you say that, I remember it. And I do remember walking through, I don't know what they were doing. They had a bowling ball and a broom. And it had to be something with physics. And we were just walking all through this thing, and these kids were navigating this bowling ball, and they're trying to get it like through an obstacle course to stop at a spot. But we walked all through that 2 or 3 times, and they never missed a lick. Like they were just so focused, and the teacher was focused, the kids were all focused, and we were all having these different conversations. And I remember thinking, this is really interesting because they're trying to have class, and here we go. But that's what's normal there. And that's what my takeaway was, the abnormal is normal. The whatever it takes is normal. And it was so cool to see them just rolling with it and obviously learning at a very high level.
I kind of asked some of the kids, like, how are you not distracted by people just looking in the door or walking by you? They're like, I feel like we're zoo animals and people just come down there. Maybe fish in a fish bowl. It's like, oh yeah, there's just people there, whatever. So it's we have so many folks coming through. They just keep going. They stay locked in, and our teachers have very engaging lessons that keep them focused. And I tell you, it kind of pillars off each other. If somebody else has an interactive lesson, another teacher just can't come in and lecture for an hour and keep their attention. You gotta make the students be part of the learning.
Speaking of interactive and part of the learning, it's a great segue. I love a good segue. So obviously we work for the Innovation Center and Skills for Success, and you guys have not engaged with that yet. I think you will soon. What do you look for in those applications for your students? Like, so they're taking all their classes and they're doing the internships, but in terms of like real machines and real projects or real things outside of the school, what is your criteria for that, and what do you hold dear for that makes it worth their time to go and do those things?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, because we got about 350 applications right now that have been submitted. Our deadline just ended last February or last Friday, and we're going to be selecting about 120 students out of those. And what we look for is, well, I'll tell you what we don't look for. If somebody's like, hey, I just don't like where I'm at, I want to try something else, or I don't feel challenged, I just want to go somewhere I'm challenged, or I want to go somewhere that's more structured, that doesn't really cut it for us. It's got to be, hey, I like math or science, but what I really like to do is to build computers at a home or work with my dad in the garage, whether it's even on lawnmowers or, I took a bicycle and try to put a motor on it. We look for things where we think that kid's going to be a fit here, because we just don't teach engineering and cyber security. We're teaching that in social studies class. I mean, they're getting it in every class, just about all day. When we teach music, we're teaching music technology with that. So it is, if they're not like, that is not an interest of that, they're not just going to necessarily be successful or buy in here. And it's also, we're looking at how else are you going to plug in and contribute to the culture of the school? You've got to be an add to our culture and that type of thing. So I would say that's kind of what we look at. And we have in the law that created us, it said every school system gets a seat in our school. So like last year, we kind of realized, we don't have anybody from Pike County. So we went down. I did my student teaching in Brundage.
Yeah, I live in Troy still.
There we go. So you can help us out.
Yes,
we'll contract
absolutely.
you there. You can help us do some recruiting.
Sure.
But we get to go in there, and thankfully the superintendent had a vision to let us come in schools and talk to their middle schoolers. And I would say a lot of school districts do not do that. They're like, do not take our best kids. And we got to talk to them like, hey guys, we don't have anybody. We told them about the school. We don't have anybody from Pike County here. If you think this is something you're interested in, we got a seat for you. And there's a minimum qualification you got to have to get into. But if you're from a new school district, we got in. We ended up getting 2 kids from Brundage, and they're doing great this year. And now their teachers that they had are coming up here to learn from our teachers and taking that back and contributing in. So now they're a partner with us. That school system is, and their student is kind of like that ambassador with that. So that's what's been kind of cool. We're in Jackson County. They're developing a cybersecurity pathway at their career center, and we're helping them develop that, working with their teacher. So it's almost like we're a state department of education that has a school inside of it. Yeah. Our courses are independent and unique. We kind of align them to sort of industry and national standards, but also what, that model-based systems engineering. What do you need the workforce to kind of do? We can be nimble enough to do that. And then we can also be sort of a training center for other educators too. I
love that. The fabrication, they made their own guitars there. Was that part of the music lesson or part?
It's an elective class. So each of our, on a regular school day, kids, it's 6-period day. Yeah. They get 4 cores and 2 elective classes. So one of the electives was guitar manufacturing. And so they'll build a guitar from scratch. They'll get a CAD file. They kind of design it. They practice cutting on some plywood, and then they cut it on real wood. And then they're doing the electrical components and the programming of it as well. So it's an entire class through the year. They're building an electric guitar from scratch.
Yeah, they respect that. But so the reason I bring that up is like I've got a bunch of friends, and one of them is the smartest guy I know. And first time I heard him talk, I said, I don't know if this guy can spell ACT. And I say that, and it probably sounds kind of mean, but he turned out to be one of the absolute smartest guys I know. And, and now I see him. He's the type of kid in my classroom too. Like, he shows up in dirty jeans and dirty boots, and he's always there every day. And he's like, I just like to build stuff. I just like to tinker, and he can do anything. And I saw some students like that, when you think that Alabama School for Cyber Tech Engineering, some of these cats walk around in cowboy boots and, Carhartt jeans. And I'm like, cool. Like, so you got this really nice collection of students and offerings and projects, and looking at some of the space. And we talked about some of the courses they might be able to run with us, land survey technician, some of the heavy equipment, and some of the other things that, like electrical helper maybe, but like there's such a cross connection of putting your students in with some real machines and real things, and maybe some different industries that you haven't put them in yet.
Yeah, the diversity of our students coming in is really cool. We get the kids from Sand Mountain and Dale County, but also the last two classes, girls have made up 40% of our incoming classes. Our minority students, we're about 40% of color, but about 34% are Black. And if you look at colleges of engineering, typically that's less than 5% of that. Even and in Alabama, that's tough. And those universities will own up to that when a quarter of our population is African American, and they're so underrepresented in that engineering field or cyber field in degrees, and that translates into industry as well. So we were at Oakwood University the first 2 years while we were building this building.
Yeah,
being at Oakwood University is a private HBCU, and they were sort of shut down during COVID and did virtual when we were on campus. So we kind of they rolled out the red carpet for us. They gave us a dorm. They renovated a building for us, and it let us honestly build trust in that African-American community to like send their kid away, because boarding school in Alabama for high school is not a normal thing. That's kind of a New England kind of thing. So kids that come to us are typically not looking for a boarding school. It's like their kid somehow found out, and then they go to their parent like, wait a minute, you're moving away at 14 or 15 years old.
Yeah. And
so they come visit and that type of thing. So it's really cool to bring in, have all those different perspectives, come together and feed off each other and partner with each other. I think that's something that really adds to us, and we're race blind and gender blind in our application process as well. But it's really cool to see that work out.
Yeah, you built that culture for sure. I was blown away by the energy, collaborative nature, just the friendliness of the children, the maturity of them. And I didn't know who was freshman or senior, couldn't tell, but what you built there, and your team, they were all leaned in, eyes bright and focused and eager and showing off all their gadgets. It's really, really cool.
And that's the thing. I'll talk about the team that we had coming in, and we talked about the risk that you take to kind of have an opportunity to do something incredible. But everybody that came to this school that works here didn't need a job. It wasn't like they graduated. They all left a career that they were successful at to come take a chance at this school. And now we're doing really well, and applications are, every time there's a position, we get a ton of applications. But those that came in early on, when we didn't know, what our budget was going to be, what the capital project was going to be, and that kind of thing, to kind of have that sort of folks that were willing to like, hey, let's give this a shot, and students and families as well. I mean, that first year we're like, I remember when we had one student, one parent was adamant that she was going to see this campus before we opened school, but they were shut down in COVID, and they basically snuck on Oakwood's campus to get in. But that student's now at Harvard and fulfilling dreams and all that. Wow. So they drove in from Florence. They're like, we're going to see this before we just show up.
We commit to it. That's hilarious.
But that's what's been really cool. One other cool thing and I don't know if y'all know this, but we partnered with ACCS on we proposed it and we got it funded this year in the budget that we're in, is the Alabama Cyber Range.
Yeah.
And cyber range is like a shooting range that you test out a rifle or whatever. So, but this tests out your cyber skills. And we basically take an environment that's secure, and we can have an operating system, and then you sort of do a red team where you might attack into that, try to launch an attack, and then the goal is to defend or diagnose and neutralize that. And there's only one other state that does something close to this, and that's Virginia. But they don't necessarily model it out and personalize it to what an instructor wants to do. So we're doing that for our K-12 partner schools, but we opened it up to ACCS schools. We're going to pilot it with just like maybe 1 or 2 this year and then see about next year. And we kind of pitched the idea, word kind of spread. And so we kind of had an open enrollment for the ACCS schools last week. And we've got 10 of the ACCS schools that are going to come on this first year and with our cyber range. And we're going to, for those cybersecurity classes you guys already offer, we're going to be able to create those labs and learning experiences for that. So they're not having to purchase that time and that type of thing out in the open market, which is really expensive, really fast. So it's cool to be able to kind of partner with the community college system on that.
Yeah, it's a reverse engineering there because we partner with it's great. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Who do you think is going to win that cyber war? Which college do you think is going to win?
Well, I don't know that. What we want to do is to all win and protect our own resources. Like,
okay.
It's basically don't lose.
Good
don't be a
answer.
loser.
Yeah.
In the cyber war, I don't know if there's ever winners. It's more of a defensive.
Yeah, just don't lose.
Go attack them. They're more vulnerable than us. But we've seen that with pipelines or cars. You can hack a vehicle. Buildings, HVAC systems. There's people that can get into folks' networks through their HVAC system. So it is a cybersecurity affects all strands of businesses now. And that's why we're not just producing engineers or little cyber folks. We're producing people to go work in multiple sectors and because everybody needs, it's really all about defense. I guess the way Alabama used to build football teams, you build it around the defensive side of it. And you got to protect the quarterback.
Well, you're exactly right. And we talked about that, David, as we go and build the on-site water, decentralized water, water operator 2, all those things. Those guys are worried about the cyber attacks because they're, traditionally in those industries, they're older and they didn't train on the PLCs and all the networking. They trained on pumps and mechanical things, some basic electrical. So that conversation has come up, but we're building several different types of water. So as we go, we got to remember to bring that kind of stuff up. So, hey, well, what about the cyber portion? And surely it's in there. It's got to be, right?
Sure. I look to you for those things.
And I would say the niche that we're hitting that is not being done is the true protection of that happens when you're engineering it. Kind of the problem of where we're at is engineers are engineering, and you go get an electrical engineering degree in any university in the nation and you're not taking any cyber courses. Yeah. But your vulnerabilities come from your electrical side. And what we're doing is incorporating cyber into those engineering classes. And that's where we're kind of finding that niche. And that's where cyber protection start. You can try to bake it on after you have a product, try to secure it, but that's hard. Yeah. You need to think about protecting it while you're designing.
Yeah, I think so. I'm eager to know who wins, though, really.
Thanks, Nick.
With the cyber range wars, I want to know which college wins because I know those guys. I want to pick on them. Hey, we're almost out of time, which always happens. We talk and we have a good time, and then it's over every single time. So, final thoughts from you on what it looks like in the next year. What's your big win in the next year?
Well, I think the big win is for the state. I think public education, K-12 education in particular in Alabama, has come a long way. You're seeing that now through these national rankings, but that trend, if you've looked, has been getting there over the last 5 to 6 years. The ACT score is higher, the AP and dual enrollment's more prevalent and accessible, and now you're seeing it in those 4th and 8th grade scores. So I think public education in Alabama is stronger than it's ever been in the history of the state. Okay. And you have schools like ours that there's no other school like it in the nation. We're getting contacted by other states almost on a weekly basis to help them replicate what we've got here. And the thing is, it takes a comprehensive effort. It's just, you can't just plug and play. But also what the community college system has done is making it, and I think this ties into kind of why we're here, to what's the purpose of education? What are we doing here? We just, learning things, or is this hey, you're building skills and you're learning that's going to be applicable. So I think, kind of like-minded is we're very mission oriented. We ensure everybody learns. We have a very high retention rate. 98.5% of our kids come back year after year. If you look at other high level STEM magnets, that's 30 to 40% of those kids drop out or don't finish, that type of thing. It's just so rigorous. And and hard, and we're rigorous, but you know what? We provide all this extra support. These kids are going to be successful with it, but it's outcome oriented with that. And so our students are going to be successful. You're going to see them in the community college system. You're going to see them going straight in the workforce. You're going to see them, going to elite schools. You're going to see them in our, proliferate our in-state colleges as well. And I think our graduates are going to be leaders kind of for that next generation going forward. But I think it's just overall something for the state to be really aware of and very proud of, because we're folks that are trying to replicate this in Colorado and California and Illinois and Virginia. They kind of see what we're doing. They're like, man, how did y'all get that figured out? But it was kind of a vision and building a team and getting the right folks together and the determination. And we got good folks here in Alabama, smart folks, and we get the job done. So I think I would just say that's kind of the setup that we have. We're in the right place. We're in the right state. And the support has been really crucial to making this work.
Yeah, when you take risks, you gotta have support. We know that, don't we?
Mm-hmm. I'll say we have a really big supporter of ours, Chris Strickland, and he says all the time that Alabama is number one in workforce innovation. And so I feel like you really just the last 45 minutes articulated how that is so true in a whole different world that I didn't even know. And so I think that we are excited to partner with you guys. Alabama is moving in such an incredible direction. And I hope that everyone listening to this episode is inspired by your story, but also inspired by what you guys are doing through your school, because education looks different and it's good and it's something not new, but it is so practical. And I feel like we love to get our hands on true application. And so we are just excited to partner with you and look forward to what that looks like.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Y'all keep it rolling there, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, we will soon. Appreciate it, Matt, you and your team, and we got everything connected. I'll connect you to Matt Heaton. He's our career readiness manager. He'll get your group set up in some of our courses soon, probably through Calhoun or Drake, one of the two, since you're right there. All right, man. We appreciate you a whole bunch. Thanks for your time, and appreciate Abby of giving you that extra laptop so we can get it going.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this is another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Please follow us, like, subscribe on all of your podcast platforms. Have a great day.